All right, we have a wonderful, delightful afternoon of poetry for you this afternoon, this beautiful, spooky Saturday at Saturn Bar. We have Alex and Anthony. Alex is going to be up first, and Anthony up second, as is the usual. So I'll invite Rodrigo up here to come introduce Alex Jennings. Thank you all for coming.
Welcome, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, good. Let's talk about Alex Jennings. I really want to talk about him. So, on reading a sample of Alex Jennings' poetry, I was instantly captivated by the motivic mechanisms that propel it forward. As to where his poems spring from and how they make a life to themselves while they're with us, I found it all to be very enigmatic. And some folks here know that I employ that word, enigmatic, in very favorable ways. Somewhat akin to Karen Hembry's writing, in Jennings' poetry, there's no foreshadowing of plot, no linguistic prosceniums holding it up, no easy landings for the poem's symbolic stratagems to rest on. Jennings is a no handrails poetics. And I felt that all of the poems had a, how to put it, a classic feel to them, a sense of permanence even. I felt like I'd walked into a used bookstore and found a yellow stained, somewhat frayed Penguin Classics book titled Selected Soliloquies of Alex Jennings. And as I was reading each title of Alex's poems, it was like I was experiencing, expecting to see a subscript above each title. From, but you know, the teeny little Roman numerals, ellipses, everything in quotes, making me wonder about what play they might have come from. Although I was just as delighted to read these soliloquies, these poems right here. A few weeks back, Cameron Lovejoy was telling me how he's recently been interested in thinking and writing in such a way where what's not enunciated rings loudly as what's written. And that absence, this present way of thinking, tones well, I think, with what we're about to hear this evening. In physics, they call it bubble nucleation, a quantum event where antimatter asserts itself, seemingly from nowhere. But that nowhere is a somewhere in this instance. It's a concrete manifestation of the way Jennings' poetic mind works. Much like John Donne, Jennings draws metaphoric power from a wide range of domains, biology, history, theology, etc. There's an insatiable range of interests that's always buzzing throughout his poems. I might even say he's a neo-metaphysical poet in the sense of mixing metaphors wildly. In one of Jennings' poems, A Coin Unearthed, Hannibal, you know, the guy on an elephant whose army crossed the Alps to stick it to the Roman Republic, makes an appearance alongside Ellis Island. In that same poem, Santa Claus pops up, as does Bob Ross. I mean, yeah. Transchronicity rolls off this poet's pen with ease, it seems. Another striking aspect of the poems I read was what I'd call chopped lyrical intimacy. A form of personal address might kick off a line and suddenly and very abruptly, that perspective shifts away from the addressee and gets treatment at the purely symbolic level. This kind of toggling happens fairly frequently, enough that it seems to be part of Jennings' unique style. Poets that come to mind are Cesar Vallejo in Trilce, an enigmatic book with a similar way of signing, and early Amiri Baraka, Leroy Jones, in his famous book, Preface to a 20-volume suicide note. Both of those examples don't develop intimate forms of address through I-based egoic maneuvering, but rather through that chopped lyrical technique that we see in Jennings' poetry. Affect is achieved through the extended stanza, not the line. No line in particularly, you know, goes for it, full on. As Ron Silliman was fond of saying, the paragraph is emotional when it wants to be or not. Okay, so here we go. Alex Jennings is a writer, editor, teacher, poet living in New Orleans. He was born in Wiesbaden, Germany, and raised in Gaborone, Botswana, Tunis, Tunisia, Paramaribo, Suriname, and the United States. He constantly devours pop culture and writes mostly jokes on Twitter at Magic Negro. That's with a K, like as in the old spelling of magic, by the way. At Magic Negro. He loves music, film, comics, and even some TV. He's the program director of Dream Foundries, Con or Bust, and pens a regular speculative poetry review column in the magazine of fantasy and science fiction called Chapter and Verse. In 2022, he was the inaugural recipient of the Imagination Unbound Fellowship at Under the Volcano, a guided writing retreat held annually in Botswana, Mexico. His writing has appeared in fantastic stories of imagination, electric philosophy, Uncanny Magazine, Fantasy Magazine, New Sons, and Current Affairs, among other venues. His debut novel, The Ballad of Perilous Graves, is available wherever books are sold. You can find him goofing around on Instagram at Magic Negro. He is also an instructor of fiction and popular fiction at the University of Southern Maine's Stone Coast MFA program. Please, a warm welcome for our own very own Alex Jennings.
Wow. In the year and change since my book has come out, I've been blessed in the way that people connect with it, and I'm getting used to having my prose looked at closely. But I've never heard my poetry examined that closely before. And thank you for that, Rodrigo. That was truly amazing. I'm so happy to be with you all here tonight, well, this evening, at Splice. And I think I'm going to start off with a newer poem called A Wedding Toast. Old gods swept aside, altars smashed, break to build and break and break and build. Ouroboros, bitten tail, chew eternal heart and gnashing of teeth, not always. Sweetest curve, jawline, whole tongue, strong muscle, and flashbulbs. Cheese! Too long I kissed backs of her knees, kiss back, issue forth. The moment when gravity releases landing gear, the spiraled future, a staircase in helix, relation, all chain, the color of sunlight. This day and that one. Be with me in paradise, my father's house, 57 years now, unfathomable. Stay together is to stay together, they said, but much has turned the arrow. Bank accounts, property holdings, slackened shame, and rising self. They sacrificed, and on the hairy side of hard candy, we live for free. Ensorcelled like echo, starve and desiccate in an ocean of our faces. The loveliness of me. Stand upon laced fingers, boost up, lift up, pull my weight and you up after. Cartoon man climbs a rope to nothing, and pillar of cloud, or by night is fire, and the spirit of the earth called to account. League upon league of murdered bodies, and the fear of telling, where are they? Looks left, looks right, both ways, and cavity creeps. I dream my teeth fall out. I dream my dreadlocks lost, but they are. That moment of crying out, when scream becomes whimper, when the wail surfaces to wakefulness, then dizens back down, depthless, fathomless. Aimless, pathless, idiot dream of history and telescopes wrong in, you know it. In that quietest moment, that face in repose, that lapse of held breath, is room for merest miracle of heartbeat, again and again, infinite. This one is called Jacob's Ladder. Curved, wintry moon, round as mangoes, floral red and white, fragrant as carnation. Bells unring as carpet swallows noise of low heels. The race of institutional stairs, chained sunlight slanting your lipstick. I want to light your cigarettes, to taste the nape of your neck. You'll tell me later you're a bratty switch. Bright as the sound of spilling coins, you rang out against noise, color and color, rich, bright, red cheeks and freckles, dark slick curls without oil. One of us said, you look like you give good hugs, soft, sharp, gravid, warm, biting your wrists in a galaxy of kisses. I whimper when I do that, I can't help it. Fine, that's all fine, yes please. Bloom like moonlit flowers, open with pink petals, sweet pearls and reddened petals, nectar beaded in the thicket, juice I need, unfold and unfold. Swimming motions, threaded breath, a gin emerges from enchanted bottle, your wish, a wrestled angel, a blow to hip or lower back, and lower back. This space echoes, do you hear? This place between, I strain to see. Do you see? Can we lead together? We shelter in place and time out of time, a grotto, a stone door, a seam of buttered light against the black. Is longing fatal? I hope not. Next month in a better world, you'll say, get dressed, darling. Those steaks won't eat themselves. Okay, this next one is called In Coin of Realm. And I wrote it from an old classmate of mine at the American Cooperative School of Tunis named Hani bin Bakr. Hani was very wealthy, and he was the Saudi ambassador's son. And for years after my first year of college, we fell out of touch, and I very much felt his absence in my life. And when we came back together, I learned that he was very ill. And so this is for him. I could go on. Path untrod and old haunts, your benedictions, generous hands, dinar for tipping, stunt driving dreams and range far and wide, salt flats, troglodyte houses, burnished clay and cave-painted roadside grilled camel, souk, the prophet's barber, Scott as Patton ranting in Speba, Tunisian studies, our sandbox, restaurant kitchen and model residence, the diorama, the painted trees, Nina Simone to terrorize hotel staff, more clumped together and whisper, I saw you descend, a star, a comet hurtling down and down. They're so fast because they fall along spaceways, kiss foreign orbits, the romance you crave, the girls like painted birds and flowers and hearts and chocolate petals for balloons. Secrets keep them well. Castle tower and Mediterranean stone throw, strawberries chopped in tobacco and double apple for its fragrant smoke, menthol and dirty blue Mars exhaust, to smoke because I'm over it, drink because my heart is dumb, the shut-up mouth and statues, baby bones and stelae, blind eyes, finger pads without prints, staring eyes, scroll of scenery, memory impressions like schools of fish angled down and down together, endless, shining, bodies related or unrelated, brothers, sisters, cousins, parents, ring of fire and jump through hoops like satellites fall to earth. Look out below, I bellow and rock the earth and crater blooms around me. Dad, did you see? Dad, watch me. When he learned of your smoking, he beat you worse than mine beat me. I'm sorry, I never said. Palace guard and white gloves, superhero capes, and what do you want me to do? What do you want, yeah? Rock band and lycée, embezzlement and little bricks lined sidewalk, Punic ports and Bardo, Numidians huddled upon the table, taking siege, those round sandwiches with pickled carrots, preserved lemon, girl from Germany, and the white toes in the graveyard. I heard scenes in my head and tiger's eyes and divided, seen through film of years and destitution. No, war upon war and the slaves underground, earthen tunnels and ghost sobs underground, generation and generation never setting foot above. The blood-red eye of distant fascist sun, sea turned salted green as taffy, as rotten candy, as Turkish delight sold in chameleon cages on cobblestones, machine guns, softballs, Hendrix guitar like cat-born whale, distended, stretched like drumheads, brittle as cymbal strikes, high-handed, high-hat, and highest hat, palm held out and stood around waiting, bearing Pablo to the pool, but you weren't in there. Kinder than me and short-voiced and looking for the lunch with Kyle shut in the trunk. The stifled voice, sneeze unblown, the pressure in my solar plexus when I first knew you were ill, after mourning, after seeking, after face receding beneath the waves. Celine Dion and the best of Tupac, and lost fight to scores of sand-skinned knees and elbowed faces, and broken window across his face. I've lain beside you. I know. We prank-ordered hometown pizza, dialed brothel, interviewed for nothing. We careless, we astronauts and ass-happy saints upset over Mohammed, dead as Schrodinger. We strange stars and firmament of privilege, true wealth and open eyes to spirit pressure, church mornings in the multi-purpose room, I on Thornton bitten wrist and broke her ankle, and kindness of you and kindness of you. Well, comic books say I must rescue. Come with me if you want to live. Live with me in protest of imagined crimes. Derangement of senses, no game to me. True and bitter cup of worry. Bobbing head like drinking birds, or fruit bats alight to walk on chlorine water. For 6 months after, sleep like the dead every afternoon. Time lag, to say nothing of the dog or extinct cats. Why would fantasy harm you, steal your life while making mine? In Narnia or Fornis together, high kings, we reigned, we warred, we opened throats. O plume-tongued animals, forgive you if you can't remember. Forgive me when I can't remember. And here again our secret handshake. Swim from the terrible depths while you walk on water, singing, I love you. I love you, I love you, remember, I love you. That one always sneaks up on me. How am I doing for time?
You're fine. Go.
Okay. This next one is called Big X. You know, I had one of my most significant relationships in my life years ago, and it has long since dissolved. And I understand that that's for the best. I like my life, I like my partner, and the things we do together. I love her so much. But you know, these things leave a stamp on you. And so, here's one of mine. This again. She says, we fucked, and then Jenga, tangled brown and white limbs, meeting and pressed. We are free like lemons on trees. I am weightless now, layered under fat, but listen. But wait, I lift me out of me. I excavate, I frown, bathe with oils, anoint, gambling my whole life. And when I say I bet and won, you tell me I did good with asking. I say no, I say you don't understand. I was beneath you, I was pinned. My poverty of myth, dismembered, I sold this limb and that, or finger bones, or wrist bones like pebbles. This is how to assemble a wall. This stone fits on that. Refuse a stone, insult it, and bitter exile into French Quarter. Bitter though, honey. When pigeons strut, imported for meals, and grit beneath our fingernails, oh yes, oh yes. I told you someone mailed me nail care, or I mailed it to myself. Suspect cookware for a steal, and alone in a silent room, an electric buzz. We sit in the courtyard and I lie to you. I say the words I know. Every one is true, and idiot repetition. It's not will you have me again. It is you're still naked beside me sometimes. I must replace our bed and live again or else. Let's see. All right. This one is called Mere Mortal. Ninja light drop into garden, camera clicks, secret games, class trip guns, submachine, carbine, hidden arms and mechanic, body swollen and lies held firmly in the mouth. My hair like wool grows faster here. African hands and clippers, combs I've never seen, Rapunzel towers and a giant eating glowing stones, feet the color of grass. When I accept it wrapped in butcher paper, the chicken's carcass is still warm. Carcass now, not body. Never nude, plucked. Slightest modifications would grow at fangs, restore saurian viciousness and its idiot alien call. In the kitchen, I say, come with me to the Casbah. Mother, laughing, smacks my shoulders. The hushed, the steaming souk, or beachside pork store and Cafe Dinant perched atop a narrow bridge of frost-white stairs. Headless bird sighs, shrugs its narrow shoulders, and again, I think dropping. Yawning salt flats, troglodyte houses, lip of wilderness, and rare snow falling, falling. Yes, but only in your bed, beloved. My sneakered feet, the foreign soil and scrub grass, the gun barrel gravity to drag beyond, echo clicks again, and clicks again, and clicks again, camera soft. An exhalation. When I lie nude and lumpen on cooling table, who will raise and lower my limbs, lend me grace in my lack of head? When I was in high school, like the hottest girl in school was named Yasmin, and her parents went out of town one weekend, and she invited me over to her house and told me, like, all you have to do is climb the wall and drop on the other side, and all the servants know to let you in, everything will be cool. So, me being a dumb motherfucker, 16 years old, I decided, why not? I mean, I'm invited. So I climb this wall, I drop over, and I hear a click like a camera, and I turn around to see a submachine gun barrel pointed in my direction. And I raise my hands, and it was at that moment that I learned that you really can be shit your pants afraid. Yes. Like I could feel my bowels uncoiling. And then the guard laughed at me and was like, look at your face! You thought I was going to shoot you! And I just dissolved. And so I didn't even go inside to meet Yasmin and do hanky-panky or whatever. I just caught a cab back home. And that's kind of where that poem comes from. I also used to have this like really obnoxious practice of whenever I was asked to break down a chicken for dinner, I would romance it first. You know, I would tell it come with me to the Casbah, and I would move its limbs and stuff and dance with it. Slow dance sometimes. And my mother hated it. Hated it. And so yeah, that's the other part of that. This one is called Smoke Child, and I don't know. After I read it, I'll decide whether to talk a little bit about where it came from. No concrete blanket, unmade bed in darkness, restaurant bathroom stall, wad of blood in Kansas City, a mass, no tumor, no. Flushing and hardness on soft white palm. I stand beside mother, palm resting against the small of her cold spine, and dead caresses there. Sigh and gurgle of machinery. Split heart and consternation, pretend you don't know me. We never pass on the street, oh pain, oh grief of my heart. Human sacrifice or witch-burnt sorcery, a conjuring memory of quiet and shoe pairs, tangled in bayou trees. Walk beside me, the lie, I did nothing wrong. I must water your final grave and the life that almost sprang from nothing. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about that. see. I guess I'll read one more.
That's fine, Alex. Go ahead.
This poem comes from a dream I had about a lot of my high school classmates, including Hani. But it's for a man named Pablo Casasbuenas, who was a couple grades behind me in ACST. And a few years ago, he died of brain cancer. And I wrote this. Your acrid fear sweat as we hauled you to the pool and kick and splash and viewing through the wrong end of the telescope. The night I first drank gin and vomited on the tabletop. Athletic shorts, sandy knees, stars low enough to touch the ground. La Supra, La Marsa, Gamar, and Mutualville. The Tofit, litter of infant bone fragments, baths of Antoine. I dreamed everyone, but you especially, in an orbital drop, our clothes bagging, rippling loud. We sank through pillowed air, screaming to converse. I said, it's not working. Marriage and kids, I don't know. You said, don't look for it. It might find you on its own. Classroom and office furniture falling all around us. Teachers, landmarks, photographic snaps. Dues, Mata, Hotel Palmarina, Cap Bon, and Hauria. Migrating fruit bats drink from kidney pools, struggle to balance, working to see clear, to vascular lengths of transparent man. Others remember your intellect, and I do as well, but more it is your shoulders and the way you walked, Lego hair and worn sneakers, illness like a closing door, or no, opening instead, upon geography I fear to tread, and your mother, a withering heart, faintly bringing window glass as trains pass distant in the wine-dark night. There were no parachutes, and in that dream, I held your hand and spoke to you with failed words as you finished falling first. A light. Thanks for listening to me, folks. I hope the work lives up to that beautiful introduction. Thank you again, Rodrigo and Splice, for having me. And I'm so excited to hear our next reading.
A round of applause for Alex Jennings. Next up, we have Anthony Sutton, who resides on former Akokisas, Atakapa, Karankawa, and Sana land, currently named Houston, Texas. As an Imprint C. Cambor Fellow at the University of Houston's Creative Writing and Literature PhD program, and teaches in the community for Grackle and Grackle. The author of the poetry collection, Particles of a Stranger Light from Veliz Books, 2023. Anthony's poetry has appeared in Grist, Guesthouse, Gulf Coast, The Journal, Prairie Schooner, Puerto del Sol, Oversound, 8:15, Southern Indiana Review, Zone 3, The Anthology, in the Tempered Dark, Contemporary Poets Transcending Elegy, and elsewhere. With Michael C. Peterson, they are co-editor of the Unsung Masters volume on the poet Tom Postell. Anthony's poems center a speaker's psyche that is honest about its indeterminacy in relation to language's inability to determine. These poems interrogate this inadequacy and unnecessity of language's ability to portray identity and reality. The tension spurs the emotional gravity in these poems. Exasperation, grief, joy, all orbit about the poems with humility, sans cowardice, or impudence. However, these poems do call out the overclass on their bullshit, with empathy, no less. Lean in and open up as Anthony invites us into a hypersphere of poems. Please welcome to the Splice stage, Anthony Sutton.
Thank you so much for that introduction. It was actually a great reading of my work, I think. Can you hear me all right? Well, I can't tell if the thing's picking me up or not. Thank you, Alex. That was a fantastic reading. Thank you, the Splice organizers. It's actually pretty rare. This book came out in February, and I've been reading it around, but it's very rare for me to connect to communities I don't already have like a very strong connection to. So it's actually really nice to connect to new people and new places. It's been like a decade since I've been in New Orleans, and it's just been really cool so far. I'm gonna read a little bit from this book, and if anyone's interested, I have copies over there. Particles of the Stranger Light, and then I'm gonna read a little bit from a couple other things I have in the works, including the Tom Postell stuff. I'll also say, I read in Lafayette the other night, so I've been in Louisiana for about 4 days now, and I've been like, wow, they really do like Halloween over here. This poem is called Creation Myth with Blatant Copyright Infringement. In the beginning, Jason slashed every one of us. Our ghosts lingered in the Black Lodge. We'd watch sunlight pass through the window like a tide. Eventually, teenagers showed up. Jason slashed them too, then college students drove up from the void outside the lodge. Jason slashed all but one of them. She opened the Necronomicon Ex Mortis. Our bodies fell from the walls and ceiling. We took his skin and made the earth. We took his mask and made the moon. We took his machete and made all of you. Mixed white Filipino poet Anthony Sutton interrogates the basic notion of passing and then accepts being read as a Latinx woman. There's how the words ma'am and man are indistinguishable. If ma'am, did that parking guard not notice my facial hair? If man, was he just really informal? Am I really this dumb? If so, let me state the obvious, that a marginalized subject can be mistaken for a majority subject. It means identity is, to varying degrees, fictional. But here's what we don't say. An antonym of passing is failing. In this, failure can be broken down 2 ways. 1, the marginalized subject is seen as themselves. 2, the marginalized subject is seen as a differently marginalized subject. On my last day in Houston, I walked through downtown when a man crossed the street to ask, "Are you a male or a female?" I said, male? Then he turned around disappointed and walked in the opposite direction. I'm trying to come up with a joke about how I should return to Houston for the man who wanted to be my boyfriend, but I can't get it right. So I'm putting this incident in a pile with the others. I ordered them like a tarot deck. In my major arcana, I was rightfully pulled over for speeding in a school zone. I remember the line on the ticket for ethnicity. It read Latino. I wondered if it was possible to correct this and how bad Americans are at confirming that we understand each other, how English doesn't provide many opportunities to talk about race and gender simultaneously. Then I stuffed the ticket in my wallet and drove to work. Some days I am more ghost. Some days I am more ghost than word. You flinched while we sat at the patio table of your favorite gay bar as I denigrated it. Bastion of men, cisgender hellscape, perpetually hung Christmas lights should have flickered as I spoke, but instead there was the swift response you gave, the bartender. I'll take both tabs. Most days I am more anarchist than sex object. Female Trouble by John Waters played on your laptop. I dozed off with Aunt Ida's best line. The life of the heterosexual is sick and boring in my floating thoughts. It's not just the heterosexual. I am expected to be more of a man than a person. Moments ago, I kissed you for the final time. Think of it as an archive to prove that yes, I was here, and though I was not what I was when we met, I still was. A small God carrying endless light. I did say it, but I actually didn't say it. I prefer it when there's no applause between poems. I like reading them as if it's one thing. But thank you, though. A small God carrying endless light. Even after dedicating my life against prayer, never having written the word prayer, getting self-conscious upon hearing mention of prayer, I know if I had a God to pray to, it would be the light fixture in the jail cell I spent most of the day in. It sat behind textured glass, imitating sunlight. At 2 a.m., I thought it resembled daybreak. By 2 p.m., my cellmate believed he was watching an overcast morning. Now I bow to it, to study its changes in color, to understand the changes in myself. I should consider its correlatives with Dante. What of the other sky behind it? Is the universe organized by relative distance from the light? Then I would abandon Dante. Then I would study the God for itself. Is its light cast from a lantern or from the God's mind? When I learn the answer, I will abandon the material world and enter a field on the other side of the glass, one implied by the light, where true believers go, I'm sure. At some point today, someone sang, God bless America. I want to ask them if they really believe that a nation's legitimacy depends on it being the expression of a God. If my God's life is unending because the God is fed by corporations and taxpayers, many of whom live nowhere near this jail, but many have driven by. Lucifer Esvator. He likes movies a lot. The thought of an actor's skin turned to light. He tells people he likes plot, which really means he likes conflict. Watching the dance that leads up to denouement or tragedy, he likes all the terminology, especially shot in frame. A good shot is full of emphasis, he says, when talking about his film. It opens with a man and woman silhouetted in front of a window, bigger than they are, exposing the sky, the chiaroscuro lighting pushing the figures towards the audience. He doesn't want the viewer to know what the man says, but rather skip to the woman's reaction. Shot, her lips parting slowly, her jaw angling. She's about to shout at the man when the shadow of a bird's wing runs across her face. He told me about the scene while dusting celluloid and placing it on a film reel. She's only for a moment swallowed by darkness. Then set the aspect radio and let the projector bear light like a star rising at the edge of the dark theater. In the book, there's 3 poems that are all titled Come On and Show Me Something Newer Than Even Dante. Those are from a Bernadette Meyer poem called Sonnet. Thank you, Bernadette. Come on and show me something newer than even Dante. In Dante, the universe is constantly shifting in relation to where one is, so that when on Earth, Satan is at the center, and when among the stars, everything slides as if on gears so that God is the center. In non-Euclidean geometry, the shape is called a hypersphere. The concept is not too different from when, in the queer theory course, we talked about the intersection of sexuality and race, and playfully I said, and actually, I'm just the least white person in the room. Something I wouldn't clarify when walking down the street, and people think I'm Latinx and maybe a woman. The man outside the gas station hollers sister at me, but when he hears my voice, he bumps me for change. I keep walking block by block, transmuting as fast as the uncertain earth around me. This is the last poem I'm going to read from this book. It's called Telos. And something I just want to say to preface this is, you might recall in like maybe a year or so ago on the Tucker Carlson show, he used the term rape replacement theory, which kind of means people of different races mixing together will mean less white people in the future. When I was first drafting this poem in 2017, the language the alt-right was using for that idea was white genocide, so that's the language I use in this poem. This is called Telos. In the end, there is no purpose. But how should I explain this to the kid on Twitter with conservative in his username and a T-Rex as his avatar when he asked me, are you white? I thought myself clever and said, mostly, followed by because of colonization. Is that really more flippant than explaining Aristotle's biology? In it, the tongue's outcome is to produce speech, so the tongue has a form designed for speech. My race has no outcome, I have no form. So I walk down Main Street like a thundercloud, fleeting and taking up space. I lie on a patch of grass at Murdoch Park. Under the sun, science says, the melanin in my skin cups and pours sunlight over me. Another way, I am like a cloud. When I fly down to Texas this summer, I'll need to wear sunscreen though. I have no form. I imagine that kid on Twitter often talks about what I've only read in newspapers, white genocide. The phenomena occurs when you encounter my name, then my face. A white person could be here, but instead there's me. In these terms, my form is then more like the Rosetta Stone, this caustic and destructive mind, encased in Anglo-Filipino skin, which the kid on Twitter thinks is death. What does white genocide look like on the individual level? Here's tomorrow's forecast. My alarm will go off at 8 a.m., but I'll stay in bed until 10:30. I'll fry some eggs, 3. I'll take my laundry to the laundromat. As my clothes wash, I'll cross the street and eat some tacos and drink a beer. Across the street and put my clothes in the dryer. Across the street and drink a screwdriver, or 4. Across the street and take my clothes home before heading to campus to tutor. I'll grab a coffee at Star City and read, watch a noise band play at the spot, go home and drink wine, draft this poem, go for a walk, drink more wine, read a chapter from Chronology of Water, go to sleep. Thank you for listening to that. The manuscript I'm trying to wrap up now is kind of a novella in poems. I'm gonna tell you, don't worry about plot at all with this, but I will tell you the speaker in that book is named Anthony Sutton. But that Anthony Sutton, unlike me, has a PhD in art history and is kind of studying Dada art. There's another figure who comes up often, who's only referred to as you, who's kind of a poli-sci grad student and also literally you. I'm gonna first open with, as I was working on this manuscript, it's also a book that's kind of about love. And as I was reading a lot for this book, every time I encounter something interesting about love, I would just kind of put it in a Google Doc and be like, hopefully someday I'll be able to maybe collage these together into something. This first part is called Prologue / Epigraph / Cento / Total Assumptions About Attraction. Don't you ever just fuck without thinking? It is jouissance whose absence would render the universe vain. Beauty makes sex sex. What is love? A beautiful thing with petals like scalpels. Love comes in spurts. Every time I make love for love's sake alone, I betray you to know what a kiss is. Teeth, half-mated longing about childhood, and then looking for any attempt to fill a space. Love entangles itself in a network of thorns. Often we are sad animals. The pet I was when we met, a silhouette of a shark. I love you from the top of my heart. The only assemblages of desire are machinic assemblages of desire. Desire desires its own restriction. I shut my eyes to see and imprint their view. Unhappy, but what can I do? The heart is broken by scissors, love seeping from the gun. And then you say, don't worry, you and me won't be alone no more. We pull the bodies out of the lake and dress them. I hate them. I hate them as I hate sex. Our terrible and awful love becomes a phantom dictate, little root of a dream. I woke up and I was trying to kill you. So the rest of this patch I'm going to read is from the book proper, which is currently called Decorporeal. I hate it when people say andro, as short for androgynous, when the whole point is that it translates to man-woman. I hate it when people say mankind. Men are not kind. You put it best. I love you so much I could burst into flames. It was raining and we pressed on the stoop of our apartment. I felt it too then, walking down the bridge over the river. My hand kept brushing yours. My blaze could have swept this city as easily as a volcanic eruption. If you or I combusted and the bridge collapsed, would the other have lived long enough to hit water? And so maybe my true form is air, which has no density or physical properties other than chemical bonds that form it. You didn't like this thought. I know. You liked pressing me against the wall, perching for a kiss, running your hands along my thighs and waist as I shifted my weight to straddle your knee. It all traced the signifiers that marked me as a man, which you liked. Like how Dante said God wrote humanity's name, Homo, Latin, of course, which I'm sure you appreciate is the name for man, onto our very skulls. When the eyes and nose run out, the sockets spell out OMO. Air leaves you with nothing to grasp. I'm sorry, my signifiers don't match my contents. If they did, I would not be of this world. There's the post-structuralist saying not to use the first person pronoun. How can I be me if you are for yourself me? And also a bio I read on Twitter saying pronouns, don't talk about me. Meaning the only thing left in this ghost world is you, which is good since this self has walked many days past the park, only to see broad impressions of the color green, looked at concrete and whispered like bone, as an ember the self's ribs clasped like a fist. It became a heart when you said the word. The leafless trees reach for the moon because you told them to. There might be nothing when you aren't speaking, of course. You have never read any semiotic theory, so you don't even hear it. You don't even know who the object is in all this when we come together. We tumble through the week, sometimes getting drinks in the evenings, but definitely on Friday night. We'd each go to the hipster bar, knowing the other would be there, and stay an hour past close until it was definitely time to go home, or so the bartender said. The next day you text me, want lunch? And I'd respond, damn, last night I finally went too hard. And sometimes it was true. Eventually I'd roll out of my apartment and meet you for late lunch. Supper, you'd say. We'd head to your place and do nothing but watch movies. I'd critique them on strictly Marxist feminist grounds. And then I'd get off the couch, lean over to meet your face, smile, say goodbye. Then we'd tumble through the week, sometimes getting drinks in the evenings, but definitely on Friday night. We'd each go to the hipster bar, knowing the other would be there, and stay an hour past close until it was definitely time to go home, or so the bartender said. The next day you text me, want lunch? And I'd respond, damn, last night I finally went too hard. And sometimes it was true. Eventually, I'd roll out of my apartment and meet you for late lunch. Supper, you'd say. We'd head to your place and do nothing but watch movies. I'd critique them on strictly Marxist feminist grounds, and then I'd get off the couch, lean over to meet your face, smile, and say goodbye. Then we'd tumble through the week, sometimes getting drinks in the evenings, but definitely on Friday night. We'd each go to the hipster bar, knowing the other would be there, and stay an hour past close until it was definitely time to go home, or so the bartender said. The next day he'd text me, want lunch? And I'd respond, damn, last night I finally went too hard. And sometimes it was true. Eventually I'd roll out of my apartment and meet you for late lunch. Supper, you'd say. We'd head to your place and do nothing but watch movies. I'd critique them on strictly Marxist feminist grounds, and then I'd get off the couch, lean over to meet your face, smile, and say goodbye. Then, after many hours on the road, I was in Indiana, saw a billboard that read "Hell is Real," and stopped in Bloomington, unsure where I was headed, Chicago-ish, but needed food. The sun was bright, and the sky looked so blue, it could have been painted by Iva Klein. I was impressed by all the organic food places and decided to crash for the night. Find a quick Airbnb, load my stuff and check out the town. The back door, the one gay bar caught my attention. Anarchist dance party, tonight. In the dimly lit patio, I picked up some DIY zines about decolonization, thumbed through Accomplices Not Allies, leaned against a wall to show off my learnedness and new dominatrixy boots. To anyone looking, which meant the world, which meant no one in particular, which meant myself, which meant I thought you might like them. So the final thing I'm going to read from is, so in my bio, I think Sean made mention of the series I'm co-editing a book for called The Unsung Masters. Every year it recovers the work of a poet who was, problematic word, but lost. We're doing it on a Black Arts poet named Tom Postell, who primarily wrote in the 50s and 60s. Tom only published maybe 4 poems in his life in all the Black Arts journals. But miraculously, my co-editor lives in Cincinnati where Tom's widow is, so we actually have the whole book, and we'll be publishing it for the first time this spring. I'm going to read to you two poems, one that was published in Amiri Baraka's journal, Yugen, and then one that we're going to be publishing for the first time in the spring. So the one that's been published is called I Want a Solid Piece of Sunlight and a Yardstick to Measure It With. 7th Avenue fills at noon with a gray tide of suits come out for air. Noon catches fire peaks over the high rooftops and spits into the saloons. The brown buildings drip with wilting plaster and the mighty pigeons' dung. Sylphidine Street Avenue trips on red and green lights and slides quietly by Central Park. Honeysuckle leaps over the hedges of the people leaving from Staten Island for work. Long Island slides in its channel, groaning under the new load of grinding storms. I see the Brooklyn Dodgers in Times Square with their bats and balls practicing. Let us enter the redundant oasis which rips of jungle beats on glasses of gin. We never get on the train that stops to let the morning passenger in. The rats digging in the cellar, the basement cement crumbles as we rise. Lakes of icy, whispering trees float crunchingly under the glory of white blue sky. Oh, give me a solid piece of sunlight and a yardstick of my own and the right to holler. I don't need to ask for the moon because I love something that melts in your mountains. And then this other one is called Poem. Seems silly to quibble with silver and dream of flowing waters. Come as drenched rain through the aftermath of the divided spirit. Cling to me with the train stops to turn on all its faucets. The screaming wheels of the locomotive dwindle to a stop and sigh. Not the breath of the angel or the saint, but that of the quiet night. We shall stick a pin in the universe and no one shall squeeze it into a ball. Don't you know I loved you since I first saw you struggling to build your fire, darling? Let us go into sleep and dream in the dark saliva of God. Fought, gained, lost, then trivial and love lost and won the deal and died. Please, please consider the dream and laugh at the falling buzzard. We have been taken by the bite, the transient Mephistopheles, and cling to the sides of the passages that lead down to hell. Clutch, cling, I bang and yell, and the devils ring the bells. Wells of loneliness fill the torn flesh of human cells. We slide through the slime as rich and red and orange as our souls wonderfully. Cuddle up to me, darling. Let's sit by the fire and make jokes. Let's laugh at the twinkling eyes of night and pretend we are just as happy about it as they are. Sit with me and let the firelight that we may trample on the feet of winter. Let the bosses sing us an old song before we trip them on the rose bush. We got lost from each other on the first day and have not really found the way yet. Give us an idea of where it is, and we shall ask for it politely. If she ever sees where I am now, she will give up in despair. We are sitting on opposite sides of the world, and it is turning and groaning, while the sky is turning to detach and independently varies in its moods. Thank you.
Keep it going for Alex and Anthony. Thank you all so much for coming out on this beautiful Saturday. You could be anywhere else in the city, but you chose to be here and participate in some poetry. And I'm truly thankful for all of you spending your time here. We do have a couple more great readings coming up in the next few days. Liminal is going to be at the Domino at 6 tomorrow. And there is C.W. Cannon, E.M. Tran, and Daiquiri, who's right here as well. And then Monday at Tulane, Franny Choi's in town. She's going to be reading over there around 7 p.m. So lots of good juice going on in the city. Get on livewire.org and check it out. If you haven't already, buy a book from Anthony, buy a book from Alex.
I also have a reading on Tuesday with John Paget and Lady Hubbard. We're going to be reading Scary Stories at the Ladder Library at 6:30 p.m.
Yeah, you're right.
It's called Doom Seance.
We are stacked this week in October. Stacked. Keep going. Get one every day for the week. Buy some books, chat with the poets, buy a drink, tip your bartender. Thank y'all for coming.